meetings with limited number of ambassadors every week, 1 or 2, 3, 4 times. So this will let me understand what is the wind blowing, and sometimes get their vision, or also give them some ideas that they could perhaps exchange with others to make it possible.
जी शुमाइला अंदलीब.
Thank you. Shumaila Andalib, Associated Press of Pakistan. Given the recent developments in the region, what are the specific areas that Pakistan is going to highlight at the upcoming session of UNGA in New York? And secondly, are you going to participate in this session? Thank you.
Well, I have shared my views and my recommendation to the Prime Minister would be that we should participate. I believe physical participation means a lot more than a virtual engagement. You can convey more, you can feel more, and you can be better understood while you're physically there. And this is the 75th session, so it's an important session. It's not a normal, usual session. It's a historic session. So I would encourage Pakistan to physically participate in that session. On the priorities, I said there are a number of issues that I have just touched on. Obviously, the most important priorities are the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. This is an issue which is on the agenda of the UN, cannot be overlooked, should not be overlooked. You cannot wish away, even if you want to. So this will keep simmering till it is addressed. The issue of debt relief for the developing countries is equally important, because the developing countries is facing the challenge, the twin challenge of saving lives with a fragile healthcare system and dealing with the economic situation because of the global contraction and the recession, bordering the Great Depression of the 30s. How do we protect these very, very indebted, vulnerable countries? The Secretary General has taken some initiative. We're grateful to the G20 countries. They have helped, but we feel, Pakistan feels, more needs to be done. Thirdly, the issue of climate change. The Prime Minister has been talking about yesterday, while encouraging tree plantations in Pakistan. The Prime Minister spoke elaborately on how important environment change and climate change, the impact it has had on our wheat production, for example. And we primarily are an agrarian economy. Illicit financial flows. How loot and plunder and siphoning off money through corruption in the third world developing countries has impoverished the people of these countries. How important this is, and how do we need to check the flow of money out of countries like Pakistan. And Islamophobia. The world has seen, and the world has reacted, particularly in the US, to racism. When George Floyd was, killed, the way he was killed, there was a spontaneous reaction to that. I personally feel that the OIC countries must join hands and speak up, because Islam is being portrayed and Muslims are being targeted. Hate speech and new ideologies have risen. Ideologies that made the world suffer, like the fascist ideology. Today we see new ideologies. The ideologies being propagated by extremist, fundamentalist organizations like the RSS are of concern. And I think there has to be a clear message from the UN system on how to deal with hate speech and Islamophobia. So these are some of the priorities that Pakistan would like to highlight in the coming UN session.
So we can take one last question. Ji Mateen Haider.
This is Mateen Haider representing GTV Network. A question to UNGA President-elect, Excellency. You have talked about credibility of United Nations and being the President-elect of UNGA. So you also spoke about impartiality. So how would you like to make comment that there are United Nations Military Observer Group on India and Pakistan, which is a very vital department that monitors situation in Jammu and Kashmir and particularly line of control violations. Pakistan has permitted that group number of times to visit line of control and collect the facts. But continuously India is blocking United Nations Military Observers Group visit to their part of the line of control. So this is the biggest UN violation. It's an official group created by the United Nations. I think even if you keep the impartiality, so definitely there has to be comment. How would you like to make your voice while sitting at UNGA President to make this United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan more stronger so that they can independently report the situation over there, particularly India's violations at the line of control and continuous targeting of civilians inside Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which is also a great human rights violation. And question to Mr. Foreign Minister. Mr. Foreign Minister, you have highlighted the priorities. Indeed, these will be definitely discussed, but how would you like to make comment as an independent comment that with the passage of time we have seen United Nations has lost its effectiveness when it comes to the Indian occupied Kashmir situation. So what are your comments to make UN more effective as far as Indian occupied Kashmir is there? We have seen your zeal, your enthusiasm as far as human rights violation, but UNBC it's not playing that effective role. Thank you.
First, I'm still the President-elect. I will take office on the 15th of September. So I think the better way is not to make any comments now. And to, when taking the office, we will have coordination meetings with the Security Council, the Secretary General, and also with ambassadors there. And I think it will be much better after understanding the situation to make remarks or to propose initiatives. At this moment, I don't think I have the right to make any statements where in a situation which I do not control.
Mr. Mateen Haider, let me comment on that. And my view is that UNMOGIP has the mandate of the Security Council. And their mandate is very clear, to ensure peace and security. Pakistan has given the observers on our side of at the LOC the freedom to ensure, to share and report. Unfortunately, on the other side, they have been, I would say, obstructed from performing their responsibilities. That is why Pakistan is articulating that the role of UNMOGIP must be strengthened at a time when the intensification of violations and ceasefire violations is growing. We saw 2019, the numbers were very high, and this year, to 2020, already we've had 1845 violations so far, and we have some months to travel. So that is very clear. On the role the UN can play, the UN must play its role. It cannot overlook the role. Because if the global leaders want to address the issues of peace and security, if they want to promote stability, if they want this region to develop, how will it develop? How will we attract investments? How will we ensure regional trade, regional connectivity, when this very issue, which has been looming and lingering for years, is not addressed? I think it has come, a point has come where this issue needs to be addressed. And if it's not, and if this wound keeps bleeding, unfortunately, peace and security of the region will get disturbed. And not just the region, it will have implications that go far beyond the region. But across the LOC are two nuclear powers, and Kashmir has become a flashpoint. God forbid, if things spin out of control, the world will be sucked into that situation. Before that happens, the world and the UN must act responsibly and act now.
Thank you very much, sir. And this brings us to the closure of this press takeout. I thank you very much for your participation.